Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Social Litmus Podcast. I'm your host, Pete.
And I'm Blake. And I hope you guys like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, because we are working very hard to bring it to you every single week.
So hard. I'm sweating right now. My back hasn't been dry since we started this. So give us a shout out there, family, friends, anyone else you know would be interested in laughing, learning, and living.
Yep.
All right. Blake, what's today's topic going to be about, buddy?
Space, because we thought, nothing, real bite-sized content, I think. Real small.
Small, tiny.
Now, we're going to talk about basically the entire universe, because why not? I mean,
we're already exploring pieces of it. We might as well start at the beginning.
Exactly.
So
quick, just the kind of the four topics that we're going to try to cover are the origin of the universe, the Big Bang, obviously. We're also going to talk about the deep space and what is out there. What can we do to get out there? And, of course, we're going to talk about some biologics.
As they like to call it.
And we'll just end it off with a nice, short, and concise, what is the purpose of the universe and life? Nothing
It's going to be a small
snippet.
snippet.
Nothing big.
Tiny.
Nothing big.
Really small snippet. If you want to figure out about it, you got to listen to the end.
Exactly.
And, I'm not saying that you can scrub through the whole video, but then you'd be missing so much good stuff, and it'd be dumb of you to do so.
So why don't you go ahead and start us off with the origin of the universe?
Sure.
And let's go from there.
I absolutely will. So, as you guys may know, foot's been broken now for about 5 weeks. We didn't do the check-in. He has stopped caring about it, much like most of my family and friends. Thank you guys for checking in on me. It's been 5 weeks, guys. At this point, I literally could have hung myself from a ceiling fan, and not one of you guys has checked in. So, love you guys. Remember me when that day comes. I'm joking. But I've had a lot of time. I'm not going to get into the foot. It's depressing. I don't want to talk about it. So we're going to talk about my time that I've spent. I've spent it semi-wisely, I want to say, Blake.
Yeah.
Not as wisely as I wish that it would be spent. But one of the main things that I've been diving into has been how the universe works. It's a series on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I was really interested about the Big Bang and what started this whole shindig, what's out there.
This is a shindig.
It is a whole shindig,
yeah.
It's so funny that something happened and then billions of years later, I have to go to work, I have to break a foot, and I didn't ask for it. You didn't either. None of us did. So I just find that it's very interesting. We got to talk about why and how. So number one thing, Big Bang happened just about 14 billion years ago, and the best part is it's like plus or minus 500 million years. They don't really know for sure, but I respect that it's a plus or minus, because if they told me like 14.8357652, like
unbelievable,
I'd be like, now you're just joshing here.
Yeah.
So what I learned a couple of things, Blake.
Yeah.
I learned that the Big Bang happened. They're like 99% sure about that from a scientific perspective. And when I mean they, for the duration of this podcast, it's more than likely going to refer to theoretical physicists.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Literally.
Specifically.
Exactly. He's on a lot of the episodes.
Yeah.
Of the,
he's a great liaison between the science community and us.
Because it's like what was his name?
Carl
God.
Sagan?
No, of course, Carl Sagan. Sagan, right. No problem. No, the other guy, man, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Ah, yes.
He's more like practical stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
He's not really a theoretical physicist. So there's a big difference between theoretical and experimental physicist.
Right.
One is talking about the mechanisms by which things actually happen physically, and then the other one's talking about the actual theory, the math behind it, if it's
what
actually
could be.
Exactly. But it's a lot of their stuff, it can't really be proven or tested. How are you going to test the Big Bang? You can't put it into a vacuum and be like, hey, we're gonna recreate it. But getting into it, they said that right before the Big Bang, something very interesting is that the entirety of our known and unknown, observable and unobservable universe, everything, every piece of energy was condensed into something the size of an atom. Now, I need you to understand just how tiny that is. It's ridiculously small.
Yeah.
And something set it off. They do not know that. They don't even. They're like the more we study, the less we come to find out.
And also, it's like, why was it condensing in the first place, and what made it condense, and then what created the condenser, meaning maybe a black hole. Like what created that? And then like, are we just like a microcosm of like a black hole that has existed already, or like are there black holes out there that we see currently right now that are creating universes right now with its sucking and condensing and then blowing? But like, we don't see any big bang, but what if it's a big bang into the black hole, and then that's just like another universe?
See, now it's funny because when I was watching it, it was like so hard to follow.
Yeah.
And you know,
much like this podcast probably.
Listen, take your Adderall before you watch this.
Yes.
Okay. You'll be like this. You'll be like, keep going. I'm getting everything.
Yes.
But they called it a singularity, Blake. That's because everything was just into one. But as I'm watching it, like they're describing everything, and I'm like, that sounds a lot like a black hole. And it's funny that you brought it up yourself. It could be the black hole is eventually everything's going to get sucked into this black hole.
Yeah.
That's what its gravitational force is so strong that it just everything is being pulled into it very fast, but it's happening very slow for us human in our lifetime, in our lifespan.
Yeah.
And the physicists were saying, and I want to just clarify, I'm not sure if I misspoke before, but I said the more that they study, the less they truly know about the origins of it all. And much like anything, when you first started off, you're like, any skill, you're like, I know how to do that. And then there's like this graph that you kind of, I think you know what I'm alluding to, but there's a graph where like you start beginning something and you're like, okay, I'm getting the hang of it. I think I know what I'm doing. And then it's like you really get into it and you're like, and then it just plummets, and then you slowly build back up, but you never get back up to there in your terms of confidence.
Yeah, easy to learn, hard to master. And then on top of that, there was that one, I forget who made this quote, but basically the more we know, the more questions we have, which makes sense. I mean,
Socrates. All right.
Socrates.
It's tough because in Greek it's Socrates. So it's like it's such an anglicized thing. But anyway, I'm going off onto a tangent.
Yep.
But the Big Bang happened. They know that, and the craziest thing is, dude, they everything happened within like 1/1,000,000th of a billionth of a second. That's how quick like the first 5 stages after the Big Bang happened.
It's crazy.
It's in you can't fathom it how quickly it happened.
Yeah.
And now they know what happened for those first couple of millions of billionths of a second, and then basically for just about 380,000 years, nothing happened. And that's when they started to see something called cosmic background radiation forming.
Yeah.
Okay. And what that is basically the energy exploded, and it's for 380,000 years. For some reason, they know it. It's through telescopes, and not telescopes, I should say, like these thermal heat scanning, orbiting things that are in the sky, and it just scans the universe's heat map.
Gotcha.
And based on that, they can tell exactly how long ago that happened.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, for 380,000 years, nothing's happening. It's expanding. The universe is expanding, and at this point, it's like boiling hot. It's impossible for even atoms to start forming.
Right.
And several billions of years later, we had the first atom form. It was hydrogen, right? And all it took was one. It was the first one. And
start off small and easy.
Exactly. And from there we started to see more atoms start as the universe cooled. There were so many different forces in effect, dude, that like they were saying, like the strong force, gravity started to form. All of these things perfectly cooled the universe to the point where matter could start being manifested from energy. Energy is matter. Something very, very important to know. I didn't exactly grasp it at the time, but some guy named Albert Einstein kind of proved it. E equals MC squared. That whole shebang. No pun intended on the shebang there. But so yes, that happened. Like, and before we knew it, we started to have life. I think the Earth formed 4.3 billion years.
Okay.
Trying to think about that.
Doesn't really matter at this point.
At this point. And I'm just like, I'm wondering like how it formed, like how do they know? The actual time? And I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, and I'm going to butcher it while doing it.
Yes.
But I highly recommend you deep dive into it.
Yeah.
But after a certain point, when the Earth was finally formed 4.5 billion years ago, That is more correct. Then we started to have little particles. I believe RNA was like the first thing that that came to be out of this primordial soup. Does that ring a bell for you?
Yeah, of course.
Amino acids started forming, and then from that point, it was just like they were like, hey, like let's just start getting together and let's see what we can create. Yeah. And then you had like eukaryotic organisms, prokaryotic organisms, and slowly but surely they became more and more complex until we became so complex that we're talking about the universe, existing. We are the universe existing
into a camera
for you to digest.
And then that camera was built literally just off of a whole bunch of materials, and that's it. And then code was written to, anyways. But
just nuts.
So a couple things to bring up just in that great synopsis, by the way, actually, from the beginning to ish now. But it's so like, what do we believe? How did that start? Is kind of what we wanted to talk about, and that is, there's two different timelines or two different times in which we could believe that there was something that was above us that created that, which was what told the Big Bang to happen. Is one spot. So maybe it's someone created that on purpose, or maybe that is just cosmic chance. But then there's also the other point, which I just didn't really think about, but when hydrogen formed, was that, I don't want to say divine, but that's really kind of what we're alluding to. Was that divine? Was that someone who said this should happen, or we were going to start creating life, not necessarily with humans? Like, what if it didn't start with humans? What if they were like, humans are going to come eventually, but we're going to start it off now? And then was it divine, or was it some alien life form? Was it another universal, like a different parallel universe that entered the universe that started that process?
Are we just a science experiment? That's like,
what if time to, let's say, this alien race is like 100 million years to us is 1 second to them, so they can keep dropping in, like, this is all like a 15-minute experiment for them.
That's a great point.
And we're just experiencing time like
they're just
totally different time. Like
they're just like an alien life form, but they have lab coats on.
Yeah,
all of them have.
And
lab
I think
coats
another just to kind of kickstart the brain, if you're already hopefully you're thinking about things, but just to kickstart the brain, we talked about this before the podcast, was MIB, Men in Black. One of my first thoughts about the universe might not be just as simple as I was taught was, at the very end of the first one, the marbles off of the kitten collar like falls, or then they see down into the marbles, and then they start to see that there's an entire universe within each marble.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
But what were they doing with the marbles, Blake? They were literally just playing a game.
Yeah.
They were playing marbles.
It around. Yeah.
There was a circle, and they were just like fucking around,
So just an interesting thing. And then it would behoove me to not say one of my favorite quotes from Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Great movie.
And book. Yeah, book's way better, but
of course it is.
It
always is. Harry Potter.
But he said,
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, he said the first book at the very beginning, the hook is, in the beginning the universe was created. This made a lot of people very unhappy. And they all thought it was generally a bad move.
Yeah.
And I just love that, because it's, how true is it that there's so much beauty, so much interesting things in this world, in this universe, and people like to go on Twitter and talk about their poop. And it's just, it's fun. It's interesting.
By that, in that regard, I think we've evolved to a certain point where the only thing left to do is devolve.
Right.
And we're slowly doing it with educational forums like this.
Yep.
And social media and all that. We're gonna do casts on that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I feel like we're missing our purpose, Blake. I feel like humans themselves have a little bit like just billions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
And this is what we've come to.
So where should we go instead? Instead of just sitting on social media talking about weird stuff, we should go to deep space.
I was gonna say, or just outside in general.
Just outside. Just
outside.
touch the grass.
Just touch the grass. Look at this beautiful scenery we got over here.
I'm not gonna touch
You
that.
too can have it for about $3,000 a month. Check out your local luxury apartment rental. But we're getting a little bit off topic, and for people that might be like, whoa, these guys are playing mental ping pong over here in my head. We're gonna slow it down for you. All right, we're gonna hit our next topic. We got a beautiful outline written.
Yep.
We actually keep it in front of us here, and next to it says stop going away from the outline. Just stop disconnecting from it. That's the word I was looking for. And it's going to keep us on track.
But I think that's why people listen to us, because we're so ADHD. It just jives well with everybody else.
It does. And give us your Adderall, because we need it. Need it.
Well, we could start with the next one.
Sure.
So the idea was to talk about deep space and what we know is around us. So we've we talked about the universe. Mm-hmm. It big banged everywhere, all over the place.
Everywhere.
And
over your face.
We're here, and we're just one little spot in this entire universe.
One little blue marble.
And so I think we looked it up. What was the distance to one of the closest
neighboring
galaxy that potentially has a planet that resembles ours?
Statistically speaking, it has to. It absolutely has to.
Because there's that many planets,
and it's that big of a galaxy. And we're in the Milky Way,
right?
And the next closest one is the Andromeda galaxy.
Yeah,
and that is about 2.5 billion light years away.
Do they have milk there though? Because we have milk here. I just want to make sure that they have. It's not worth it going over there.
Every time I hear Andromeda, I think of like that show that was on. Was it called Andromeda?
I don't know.
It was something like that. But I imagine it's a lot more intense. I feel like we're the more lighthearted galaxy.
And no milk.
And there's everything over there instead of milk. It's like they pour cereal with water. They're weird. They're so weird gross. Over there because they got no milk. What are they going to do?
Yeah,
I don't blame them.
We're called the Milky Way for a reason.
It's better than putting a block of cheese in their cereal. I got it there. Oh, God. I broke them. But yes, the Andromeda galaxy, dude, 2.5 billion light years away. And Blake, explain to them light years, please.
So light years is simple. It would take 1 year for light to travel that far. And the problem with 2.5 billion light years away is that we would have to travel at the speed of light for 2.5 billion years to get there. So the problem is apparent is that we can't even get to the speed of light right now currently with our current technology. Now, that's a whole different topic now, but we're going to start getting into it. But how do we go faster than light? And that is pretty much obviously probably the most important question in science today.
They're still,
in terms of
they're absolutely still trying to figure that out.
But one of the biggest problems with not even theoretical but practical physics right now is that matter can't go that fast, or else I'm assuming we would just disintegrate.
Yes.
Or like the materials that we have, not even the human body, like the ship that we would build to go that fast would disintegrate if it just went boop right. It tried to go faster than light, or even fast as light.
Yeah, because think about friction, the forces of inertia.
Now in space, obviously, technically, there's no friction. Hopefully.
What about inertia, though?
Yeah.
Gravity.
How would we even get to that?
Well, yeah.
Speed.
We're not scientists.
We don't have the answers.
We don't have them. We just want to speculate.
But
so
we
that
talked
you could be
about the
entertained.
idea that there's potentially a couple of ways that we could actually get to, let's say, that system relatively quickly. And I mean, maybe cutting 2.5 billion years down to 100 years. I don't know.
I do want to put a disclaimer in there. I'm sorry, it's 2.5 million. What an idiot. Stupid.
There we go.
I mean, that's a little bit more realistic. Now I feel better about our chances.
But let's say there's only a couple of ways that we can think about. And one theory, one idea is just using some sort of wormhole.
Yes.
But what is a wormhole like?
Oh, can I take over here? You guys ever watch any type of space movie where they draw a line on a piece of paper?
Yes.
And they're like, I want you to imagine that this is our linear type of travel. And then basically they take the paper and they fold it. Ooh. And then they make like a little noise in the background, and then they poke a hole through it.
Yeah.
So basically you can get from A to B through that little hole without having to travel that whole line.
How do wormholes exist or start?
See, I'm not even going to touch
it.
I haven't gotten up to that
any?
episode yet. When I do, we'll put an addendum in this.
Oh my God.
But I'm sure that they've theorized how to try and create it.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that we're at that point yet.
So,
and now this is getting into our next topic.
Yeah.
The Great Filter Theory.
Oh, yes.
So the Great Filter Theory, just to touch on it very quickly, is that basically if a society or population, a species, has reached a point where it is so smart and so advanced that it can actually master wormhole space and time travel,
right,
that they would have already been here by now, right? But a lot of the times, where they're saying the majority of the time, before the society gets to that point, they end up destroying themselves with things like probably, I don't know, alien equivalent of nuclear bombs, or just stupid politicians just talking smack. And, and then before you know, we got a nuclear holocaust, and then the dinosaurs come back, and
that's how it happens.
And then, right, every time we're close, it's kind of like the Tower of Babel. It's an old biblical story, is that society became so smart, they tried to build a tower to heaven. And what happened? God got mad. He smited them, and then he made them all start babbling. Their brains got erased. That's actually where the word babbling comes from. You just learned something today. I know you did.
I learned something.
Blake did. I'm just dropping bombs out here like I am the Big Bang.
Yeah.
But yes. So in theory, it's like a paradox. It's like if they mastered it, they would have been here by now. They would have visited us.
Right.
And if they did almost master it, they might have blown themselves up before they got there, which I think that's where we're kind of at as a human species.
Right.
We're getting close, but I don't think we're going to make it because of our hubris and our egos and our pride.
Yeah.
Or conversely, maybe they are here, just like in that congressional hearing. I want Blake to talk about that a little bit.
I really didn't watch all of it, though, but basically...
Who did, Blake?
Yeah.
We all watch snippets on Twitter.
But, I mean, so we very briefly discussed it last podcast. We didn't even really talk about it. But basically, there was a man who came on, or he went to a congressional hearing, and they wanted to know about any biological or alien life forms on the ships that he was stating were non-human, as in like these ships were so advanced that they couldn't possibly be built by any government or any military on Earth today.
And it's important to note that he was a military official.
Correct.
He was
yes,
in the Air
thank
Force.
You for bringing that up. It's not just some random dude.
He's not just like, he's like got a tinfoil hat and he's like, I'm telling you, they put probes in places.
Yeah. But so they're obviously the man had credentials and for a reason to be there. But he did say basically that when was asked, were there any alien life forms, then he said there were biologics.
There
was
biologics
found
on board.
And the interesting thing about that is that biologics could literally mean like a leaf.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, a leaf. I mean, is it a leaf? You just imagine a giant leaf getting behind. He's like, we're doing it. We're doing it for all plant kind.
It's vague. It's impossible to really glean anything from that. And I want the guy which is, let's say, I forget his name, but let's just say he actually came out and he just was like in that congressional hearing, and he was like, yes, aliens exist. That guy, or this thing had 4 arms, blah 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 blah, and just keeps going on.
Tentacles.
And then it's like, thank you. Now the problem is he said he was under NDA, or not NDA, but he would basically be breaking his own agreement with the government, thus he would go to jail. And I get that, but like if you want to tell the people something's happening or that something has happened, and then you just go to a congressional hearing and you just basically say there's biologics, nobody cares, because it's just not going to be because it doesn't mean anything. Because until you come to me with video evidence, picture evidence, or like bring the alien himself, it's just not gonna. I don't care. Like,
do you think that the world would even care at this point, though? Like,
oh yeah,
you think so?
If you brought an alien to to Congress, I think they'd care.
Well, they already have aliens in Congress.
I think, different topic, but I do think that it would potentially align the entire world and all of its countries to a different, and I don't want to say better, but a different goal. So, like, I mean, think about
building a bomb to bomb the aliens.
At the very least, we're all at least we're all going towards one direction. Like it's we're still almost in the tribal phase where our country is better than your country, our God is better than your God, and it's very tribal, you know, like, oh, those guys, they wear those things and that's weird. And so, you know, like, obviously we don't go to war literally over that, but it's the ability to alienate, to make people different, so different, in fact, that we should go to war with them. And that's government's lying. But anyways,
I like how he used alienate, because that was just like a like a perfect word, right?
Yes.
He didn't say no pun intended, so I don't know if he intended the
definitely
pun.
Yeah, no. Oh, well,
was not intended. It was a little. Who knows? Just like aliens, you don't know.
But anyway, so just kind of getting back to it, we had talked about the deep space exploration, just like wormholes potentially, and then one more thing, just real quick before. If anybody's ever played the Mass Effect game or the games out there, the idea from the Mass Effect games was that there were different alien races. They all kind of started developing on their own kind, or their different planets. They all started developing. They got to this point, you know, here we are now. They started building spaceships. Then they got out to a little bit of deep space. Then they see these massive gates, and these gates existed before them, and so then they started traveling to each other's planets, but it was basically creating a faster than light technology for them. So very different topic in the sense of, like, where did it come from, because we don't have those. At least we know that we don't have those big mass effect gates. But what if that is the way that we do it? We have some sort of gate system that basically just catapults a ship way over to the other galaxy. And that's really the only possible way to have that much
space exploration.
Yeah, that much distance traveled in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that even mean, though? Because, like, again, we talked about the fact that, like, if we're going to throw matter that fast, like, what happens to the matter? Because I think it's just going to go.
So I mean, like, in that instance, it's like you know, the matter. Again, we said that matter is energy. Like, do we kind of break down for a second into
and then reform,
pure energy,
right?
And then
Is it more effectively, in our minds at least, a teleportation device rather than an actual shooting you down that way?
Yes.
So.
I mean, it in a way, you're kind of like hitting a different. You're hitting the fourth dimension is time, I believe.
Yeah, time is involved in the fourth dimension.
Okay,
yeah.
So that there we go. I mean, that's stuff that, like, I feel like our tiny little peanut-sized human brains.
Correct.
You know, even the theoretical physicists, they have got the biggest of the peanuts. They're like a macadamia nut, you know. But we're tiny little peanuts. And it's just, I mean, we got our top guys on it, you know, as we love to say. And I'm sure the military, the almost $1 trillion budget that we've got for the U.S. military right now, I'm sure they've got to be working on some bit of that. I would hope. Like, I mean, that would interest me. You know, I just don't want it to be used to just bomb other, you know, alien life forms. That's because I feel like that's where it's always going to go to.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what. You know, it's just like
the movies.
Assert the dominance.
The movies aren't necessarily all that wrong.
They're not. And
I mean,
dude,
to be fair, like, if you see something and you don't know it, you want to defend your own. Yeah. You know, and that's human nature. But hopefully we think past that and decide to either embrace or learn from. But we should probably go on to the next chapter, so we'll just kind of pause it real quick here.
We're just going to have a quick word from our sponsors. And again, I know I haven't mentioned them recently, but Burger Chef. It's still your old mom and pop joint to enjoy a burger. Go sit down and have one.
We'll see you soon, guys.
I got to tell you, Blake, it doesn't matter how many times we go, I still enjoy the explosive diarrhea that your local Burger Chef gives me.
In between these chapters that we do, we stop, we go to Burger Chef.
We do.
We grab an entire burger and fries and a drink, eat the whole thing, let it digest, go to the bathroom separately. We're not weird. And then we come back. Then because we want the full experience of Burger Chef, and we want to report back, and it's always
they're actually doing a promotion right now that it's free if you can take it down. They take what we just said to eat, they make it into a milkshake with lumps, and if you can eat it in less than 20 minutes, you get it free. Free diarrhea. Burger Chef. Go get it.
And you wouldn't be able to get it in the Andromeda because we're in the Milky Way.
Exactly. We got that on you, Andromeda. Punk ass. Punk ass galaxy. All right,
let's talk about aliens.
Yes, let's talk about aliens.
Straight in.
You know what's funny? When I used to watch it, this is not in the outline, but I just thought about it, like Ancient Aliens, and that guy.
Ancient
Aliens.
Oh yeah, you mean the guy with the hair that was getting
George
closer
Tsoukalos,
and closer to the space?
Yes, George Tsoukalos. That's my countryman right there.
Great.
He's like, everything is just aliens, and that's a meme. That's become a meme.
Yes.
But, like, dude, it makes sense. And Blake mentioned it before. Men in Black.
Yeah.
one of the most, like, again, for 90s kids.
Yeah.
It's one of the most, like, it really shaped a lot of my perspective on the world.
Right.
Because you're thinking about it, and it's like, if we talked about the Great Filter, and if they've made it here, why haven't they destroyed us yet? They have the capability. I think that maybe they are like refugees from other galaxies and millions of light years away, and they're like, you know what, I like this little shack over here, you know. I like coming here. It's safe, you know. And what if they've got jobs just like the rest of us? I know that I might have mentioned this on a prior cast, but like, I work with some physicians that I'm like, you're a robot or you're an alien. There's no shot that you're not, because the way that you act is not human. And in Men in Black, they had a lot of instances where, like, I guess Jay, Will Smith's character at the time, like, he's like, they're telling him, like, you know, oh, have you ever, like, realized that somebody in your life was weird? And he goes, yeah, my teacher from grade school. She's like, he's like, Uranus or Pluto. He's like, Saturn, actually. And he's like, stop. But I think that that's the most realistic answer for if they've made it here, why they haven't destroyed us, because they're coexisting with us, and they're definitely influencing things.
Brass tacks. Do you actually believe that there are aliens right now on Earth?
I think, statistically speaking, that it's less likely that there are not. So meaning it's more likely that they are on Earth right now. I really do, because
I would disagree.
You disagree?
I don't think there's aliens on or even close to Earth.
Okay.
I just don't think so.
I hate him.
We shall fight to the death.
We're literally just like, I don't even want to do this podcast anymore.
The only reason is just as simple as that fact that I just don't have any evidence of it at all. But I think it's possible. I do believe that, given how big and expansive the universe is, there are some sort of alien life forms out there. They could be tribal. They could be well beyond our technology. I don't know. But it could be just amoebas. It could just be bacteria in some pond, and that's alien.
But given enough time, they could evolve into sentient things.
But what I'm just trying to say is I just don't think I don't see that there's any aliens on Earth right now, like, at all. Not even remotely close. No ships, no nothing.
He asked me first to make me look stupid to you guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
And the problem is that a lot of the videos, recently too, a lot of the videos from, like, the military or from other aircraft, and they're talking about these lights that are moving really fast. The problem is that I don't even, like, the military is not going to disclose every single invention that it has ever made.
True.
Or even, like, let's say the corporations who work for the military, they're not going to disclose all of the different flying vehicles that they have made. And also, not only that, but, like, what if it is a light, literally, and the light is being shown down from a satellite or something like that, and it appears to, let's say, the pilot as something physical. Like, they have not gotten close to these lights at all. It's also just phenomena from sun, moon, different lighting. There's also the aurora borealis. That's obviously, like, that nobody believes that the whole thing is a spaceship, but, like, there's different ways that light can be refracted, reflected, and it messes things up, and people decide it must be an alien spacecraft. But the problem is, again, it's like military, let's say they do have some sort of technology that can move extremely fast in airspace. They're not going to disclose that for 20 to 30 years. And one of the reasons why is because they don't want China or Russia or whomever is our next military adversary, hopefully nobody, but what if they're not going to just disclose the fact that we have, like, these extremely fast turning, quick, agile space or aircrafts that are, you know.
And I do want to, just to add on what you're saying, just as a little bit of a rebuttal, is that in the testimonial in the hearing that they had with that ex-Air Force captain, he mentioned that one of the things that they saw was a ship that was able to come to a complete stop. And go from complete stop to Mach 5 just in an instant.
Right.
And I guess he was saying that, again, the government probably wouldn't disclose it, right? But who's to say that the government didn't get some type of vehicle or some type of design
Yeah.
from an extraterrestrial source.
But I mean, like, let's think about that real quick. Like, you say that there's an aircraft that can stop on a dime and then immediately go to Mach 5.
Yes.
So you're thinking in terms of a gas and an engine. Why would we not have a potential nuclear power plant within a very small aircraft, a very tiny nuclear power plant that can go boop? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I understand what you're saying, but then also you have to understand that to even rebut my own self, materials that we know of are not used to going either that fast or that slow, or else they literally shred in our atmosphere because there's so much friction in the air. So that would be the only rebuttal to my own self, is like, what material are they using that can withstand that much force? And then, is there a human inside of that? I would say no, because G-force would determine, like, would just obliterate someone's brain. So it might even be just drone controlled.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could very well be. I mean, that's why we started asking these questions, just because we want to start a dialogue, not just with one another, but in your own head. And I personally think that he's wrong in everything he said.
Yep.
I'm joking. I that's what I appreciate about this podcast, is that we're not going to be an echo chamber for one another or for you guys. We want disagreement, because once we start all agreeing on stuff, that's when things get a little weird. You know, it's a cult. That might be one of our next podcast episodes. But
cult. Are we in one?
Cult, exactly. The universe. Is it just a big cult?
Yeah.
But you know, like you were saying, it could very well be some type of nuclear powered thing. But I mean, I wish that I knew a little bit more about physics and you know, nuclear chemistry to even rebut that statement. I don't, at the risk of sounding even dumber than I have in this podcast for misspeaking.
We haven't said anything stupid in this entire podcast. I know what you're talking
about. You know, again, I'm going to agree to disagree on this one. But you know, regardless of whatever it is, there definitely is things that is being kept or are being kept from us, regarding just technology and how they got it. They like I was saying to Blake before, like, we don't know if maybe they did, you know, have a crash landing, you know, Roswell, New Mexico, you know, I know that was a thing. Like,
all I know is that the only way to find out is we have to Naruto run.
Yes,
direct. Please don't do that.
It's into Area 51.
Yes, that was a thing.
That was a thing. It was a meme a while back, right?
And people did it.
And people got jailed. You go up against the federal government when it comes, especially to the, you know, the development of technologies to destroy things. You're gonna get destroyed. Yeah. But now a little bit further past that topic, Blake, and a little bit more existential. We've been talking about extraterrestrials.
Yep.
Let's get a little existential here.
Yeah.
All right. So now, we talked about, you know, the Big Bang happening, all of the theoretical physicists, the actual things that we can, you know, talk about to some degree and know about because of all the technology we've created to prove certain things, or at least know for almost certain. There's certain things that we can't, and it's, what's the purpose of it all? What's the purpose of this universe? What's the purpose of this life? What's the purpose of existence, consciousness? We're not going to give you the answers, but we're going to babble. I called back right there. Babble. You guys know what it means now, where it came from. A little bit about it. Blake, what do you think the purpose of the universe even coming into existence was for? Like, realistically speaking, do you think it's a science project?
I think the meaning of the universe and life and everything as we know it is 42.
42.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on 42?
Sadly, I'm going to give you Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy right after this.
Oh, well, dude, please do.
So in the book, they actually they build an artificial intelligence, the smartest robot of all time, smartest AI that they've ever built, that ever been conceived, and then they ask it that question. And then 8 million years later, or something like 8,000 years or whatever, the AI finally is like, I know the answer. And then they all like get ready for the celebration, and they're like, yay, like, tell us the answer. And then he just says 42.
And doesn't elaborate?
Nope. And then they're like, what does that mean? And then he's like, well, I mean, that's the answer. I don't know what you're talking about. And then they were like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they were like, then it must have been the wrong question. And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, you got to build another AI for that. And then they did. Anyways.
And what happened? You can't just leave us hanging here.
Oh, it's a really, the book is so dense. It's honestly just, you have to read it. It's because it's a comedy. So
yeah,
42 is not going to make sense. It shouldn't, because it's not supposed to. But it's a comedy.
But do they ever find out in the book? You don't have to spoil it for us all.
That's in the second book and all that jazz. And,
okay, and you haven't read that one yet?
No, I've read all 3.
I don't know how many questions I got to ask you to find out what the meaning
we'll
of the universe
talk about
is.
Maybe the next podcast will be The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Sure.
A book review.
A book review. This is turning into
then we'll do reacts and song reactions.
We'll see where this podcast goes.
Yeah, I hope it devolves into just like the weirdest TikTok, like making chicken, but with milk.
With milk, because you know why? We're not in the Andromeda Galaxy.
Anyways, so I guess I don't know. It's like it's really hard to it's hard to answer because nobody has the answer.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of the universe? None. It happened, and we are all just living in it. And then what is the purpose of life? I don't know.
Do you feel like there's divine purpose here? Do you think that there's a cosmic creator?
I think it's a very plausible idea that there has to be something that is fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional that is the creator. And what we know of that, we can call it God, we can call it Allah, we can call it different, but it's really, I mean, nobody knows that answer, so I can't say for certain but I mean, what I believe, I tend towards that because it makes more sense that for some reason this happened, but there's no other reason for the Big Bang and life to form on Earth. Like I tend to believe that there was something that was, we call it divine, but let's just say more powerful than us to be able to enact those changes. Okay. That's really I'll take that. The end of it for me. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it more than you leaving us on a cliffhanger with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I personally, for the longest time, just scientifically, I've got a very scientifically, biased mind. And, I was like, it's all randomness. It's all it's entropy. Yeah. It's chaos.
And that's the one that I flip to as well. So to be fair.
No, absolutely. I mean, I go back and forth. It depends on what stage of you're at in your own life, your own personal life. I feel like when you get older, you want to find a bigger purpose. When you're younger, you're like, I don't really care about anything. I'm a teenager. Your hair is a lot more thick, so you can flip it back like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're not really searching for a purpose. You're just trying to find your footing in this existence, in this life, in this consciousness. And I feel like as you get older, you search for purpose, and it's a whole another cast in and of itself as well. But I personally think as I'm getting older, I really feel like the purpose of the universe is existence, is literally just existing. It's it's not deeper than that. It's a lot of people, you spend your whole life searching for purpose, and then you just miss the whole purpose of it, dude. It's to live life. It's to go experience things. At least I think as humans, like, we have a tendency to kind of like just think about like all the bad things, and it's like oh, life is misery, life is tragedy. And I know I felt it before, you felt it before, you felt it before at home, but I think that we're kind of overlooking all the good that you can have just by simply existing and experiencing life. If somebody told you tomorrow that you've got a month to live, you would probably start to appreciate a lot of different things, right? Yeah. We're gonna really existential and philosophical here, but we are literally, and I said this to Blake before, we're the universe experiencing itself. There's besides human beings, to our knowledge, I think aliens as well, but according to Blake, it's just humans. Just humans that have the capability to even understand that concept, and that alone is just mind-blowing to me. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of gotten a little bit existential. Do I want to believe that there's a divine creator out there that's kind of pulling the strings? We're not even pulling the strings, but just making the platform for us to exist in.
Right.
I would like to just, it's a little comforting just to know that this isn't just random. But at the same time, it's a little bit idealistic to believe that. It's a little naive to believe that.
But also, it's like I can't remember, like, there's a lot of perfect circumstances that we live in that they're too perfect.
Yes,
you said that. Not to be potentially created by someone to match us. And there's just different. I mean, honestly, I wish I'd looked this up, but I wasn't really thinking about talking about that today. But there's too many perfect circumstances. But the opposite of, or the rebuttal of my own statement right there is that, well, yeah, it would be perfect because we evolved with it, and then now it is going to be perfect for us, for it to exist in our lives.
That's a paradox in and of itself.
Yeah. So, I have to think of honestly, I feel bad for not being able to think of an example of that immediately, but the air, perfect. It's absolutely perfect for our system. Well, yeah, duh, it is. It's going to be perfect because when we walked out of the water and then started being like, this air's kind of weird,
it's like floppy fish frogs.
Yeah, and so then then we evolved with the ones who couldn't take the air, then they died off, and then so obviously it's going to be perfect, but it is evolution is kind of. It's going to make it to where this perfect circumstance for us. So
yes, and that's a great. I like that you threw in that little caveat because I didn't want to have to disprove you in front of all these people again.
For sure. Again and again
and again and again. That's a great point, man. We have evolved with all of it throughout time. The reason we're here right now, conscious. Again, no other creature that's ever existed is conscious of its existence. And that is the end all be all. Like I said, it's we're that's another cheesy quote. It's like we're stardust. It's like we're all just stardust that just accumulated. And but it's true, dude. We're just that all of those atoms just kind of aggregated into elements.
Yep.
And those elements were like, hey, I like you, element. And it's just like they had a baby, and that baby was a molecule, and then that molecule had a baby with another molecule, and before you know it, I'm going to work because of all this shit, you know. And I used to go to work, at least. Now, no. I'm gonna chop it off. I'm just gonna take it off. I'm gonna cast it here. All right.
Oh
yeah. Tune in for our 10th.
I think that'll get our numbers up. That'll pump it up.
I think live leak is still a thing.
Self amputation.
He's gonna give me a fifth of whiskey, and I'm gonna bite a bullet. And we're gonna dress up in Union soldier outfits too.
That'd be best.
Just grit all over. Just screaming.
Can't wait.
But I feel like we've explored this topic. No pun intended. We've explored this topic as much as we possibly...
As much as our little brains can.
Yes, our tiny peanut brains.
Yeah.
Don't ask the macadamia nut brain people for it because you'll be here for a lot longer than 45 minutes.
True.
So with that being said, I know we mentioned it earlier. If you liked it, like it. If you loved it, subscribe it. And I know it's hard to get through a whole podcast of this watching us because I get it. You guys got lives. You guys got stuff going on. But we're pretty entertaining. I watched, I'm not too proud to say, I watched a couple episodes. I laughed at myself.
Yeah.
And Blake, I think we've got a good banter going.
Yep.
And if you guys just financially support us, all right? we're going to put a PayPal link at the bottom.
Oh my God.
All right? Just give us money so we can get better. Listen,
I think one thing that they could do, if people want to start commenting, let us know what you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah, man.
And again, we're two average guys just being able to talk about this stuff, and it's probably not going to fall too far out of the purview of what you believe, but maybe it's nice to hear someone else say it.
For sure.
And we're going to be going over that. And we have two somewhat different ideas of what's going on around us, what should be going on around us. And it's just interesting to kind of hear these two guys talk.
Yes, we're just two guys being dudes, and two dudes being bros. All right, I like that idea. Like, please comment whatever you guys think is a topic you want our little peanut brains to explore for you, so that you don't have to watch documentaries with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, we're far better.
I think. Listen, I can grow a better beard than he, and that's really all you got to know
mustache.
About it. That's for sure. I got to tell you, when the beard gets too long, though, it goes in your mouth. And I look at like James Harden of I don't know what team he's playing on these days. He plays on a different team every year. But that man eats cheeseburgers every day, and because we're in the Milky Way, because he could do that with cheese. But he just still, I don't know how he has the beard. It's like this much.
I like to think that he has like some sort of beard guard thing
that
puts it all, and it's just like a funnel. Like,
a great idea.
Like when you put two Pringles in your mouth as like the duck thing. It's like that, I think.
I mean, but they got to jack his mouth open.
But it's unconfirmed.
Listen, we're wasting our time with this podcast.
Yes.
We should just go 3D create that. Guys, thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week with another podcast episode. episode. I've been Pete.
And I've been Blake.
Catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.